All right. Hi, Teresa. How are you?
I'm great, Douglas. How are you?
Doing fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. So, we've got you as an author and also as a butterfly expert, which is interesting because I don't think I've ever had a conversation about butterflies on this show. So,
Huh?
this is something brand new. Your book is called The Adventures of Johnny Butterfly Seed, which is kind of a take on Johnny Appleseed that I remember from many years ago as a kid. How did you get interested in butterfly conservation? I assume that's kind of what you're promoting, right?
I am. So when I was a kid, I was like that kid that left the house and went out in the woods and just explored nature. So I'm going to say my first love as a child was that of nature. And it was animals and insects and the forest itself. But my favorite butterfly of all is the monarch butterfly. And, as I got older, I never realized that there was a dwindling population of monarchs. But when I did find out, I thought, oh my gosh, how in the world could we let the monarch butterfly disappear, the most well-known butterfly in North America? And that's when I started doing some research around why is this happening? And there's a multitude of things of why it's happening, whether it's climate change or it's urban development or it's the use of, herbicides on our plants. But what usually happens is people are killing the larval host plant, which is milkweed. Weed being in the name means, well, weeds, we should pull them, right? Well, the more people who eradicate the milkweed, the less monarchs there are because they have nowhere to lay their eggs, nowhere for the caterpillars to eat. And so I really got behind trying to save the monarch butterfly.
Okay, is milkweed the only plant that they'll use for to make a home?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so it's sort of like
Hmm.
koalas only eat eucalyptus.
Hmm.
All right.
Right.
Well, how endangered are the butterflies? Do you have any
Well,
numbers?
they were put on the endangered species list in December of last year. It has yet to receive a priority with, the government, but it is on the endangered list. So there has been a study of monarchs, primarily by monarchwatch.org, of the migration of the monarchs to determine the population, and it is down so much. I mean, just every single year, there are less and less monarch butterflies.
Okay, how important is the monarch butterfly to our overall ecological balance?
That's a really good question. How important is any single thing to our ecological balance, right? That's kind of the question.
Yeah.
And I think if we allow something as beautiful as the monarch butterfly to disappear, which is, I believe, the state butterfly or insect in at least 7 states, if we let that disappear, how many other things are we going to let disappear? This is something that creates such wonder in kids when they learn about the life cycle of the butterfly and be able to witness, which is literally a miracle to watch. A caterpillar comes out of a little egg and it's just so tiny you can barely see it. And it turns into a very large caterpillar, which makes its own chrysalis. Literally, its whole body disappears and it knows exactly what to do. And then 14 days later, miraculously, this beautiful monarch butterfly comes out of the chrysalis. That's just a wonder. And it's also a good point for talking with children. Like we all experience challenges and hardships in our life, and if we can take a look at this little caterpillar that turns into a beautiful monarch, and know that something that small can do that hard work, maybe we can work a little harder at our problems too.
Well, it is a pretty amazing sort of metamorphosis.
It is.
It's rather like a fly turning into a German shepherd. Yeah, I've always been sort of fascinated by it. Is the butterfly something that is getting any kind of attention? I mean, funny enough, I just interviewed Colin O'Mara, who is the CEO of the National Wildlife Federation.
Yeah.
And we didn't talk about butterflies, but I'm curious, like, how high on their priority list is it? Do you know?
Well, having just been put on the endangered species list, it does not have a priority yet. So I don't think there's a lot of very large organizations that are focusing on endangered species that are giving attention to the monarch. However, many of them do have pages written about the monarch butterfly. And there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are starting up to try to help with the plight of the monarch butterfly in specific.
Okay, are these butterflies found pretty much everywhere in the United States, or are they concentrated to one area?
No, they are found everywhere in the United States, in Canada, in Mexico. They're in Hawaii, they're in Bermuda. They have somehow taken the hurricane waves over to Europe and other places as well. So they are starting to spread. And as long as they have larval host plants, the milkweed, they're able to actually thrive in other locations.
You also have a business, it looks like. You have a butterfly farm. You own a butterfly farm in Florida?
Well, I would say I'm a butterfly farmer.
Okay.
And what that means to me, and there's different type of butterfly farming. So there are butterfly farmers who are commercial butterfly farmers, let's put it that way. Their existence is to raise a lot of monarchs that can be used for butterfly releases at weddings, at graduations, etc. They also may provide chrysalis or caterpillars or even eggs to schools and museums and different organizations. So that is more of a commercial aspect. For me, a butterfly farmer simply is someone who wants to help any sort of butterfly, including monarch butterfly, through their whole process. So I will plant butterfly gardens, which means I'll put larval host plants. I'll put plants in that provide them with nectar. I'll put plants in that provide them with shelter. And so that they have an opportunity to thrive. That can be done in an urban environment, and it can be done, if you're out in the country. And you just watch the entire life cycle, make sure those caterpillars have that opportunity to make it all the way through and turn into their chrysalis. I bring them in a lot of times into my butterfly cages and literally monitor and make sure that everything's clean and they're able to get through the whole process with have the right amount of food, not be eaten by lizards and birds and everything else along the way.
How many butterflies do you have currently?
Right now, I actually have 8 monarch caterpillars. So one just made a chrysalis this morning. I have at least 3 more that I think will turn into a chrysalis in the next day or so.
Okay, so the process is egg to
Caterpillar.
caterpillar, caterpillar
Right.
to chrysalis, chrysalis to butterfly. How many do they normally have in a?
Well, a female monarch, probably when she's even as young as 2 to 4 days old, will start laying hundreds of eggs.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them make it. This is part of the issue. There's a lot of risk, and that's why the female monarch will lay that many eggs, is to hope that some make it through a certain percentage.
I just want to touch on something you mentioned real quick about commercial butterfly
Mm.
farming. Is that a profitable business? Because I would have never heard of that had you not mentioned it.
I have never run any business models for it. I would say that it can't be extremely profitable, but I can't answer that question because I haven't produced it commercially, and I have a really strong business background, so I would have thought of several service lines in addition to the product itself in order to make it profitable.
Well, when you mentioned that initially, I thought there was some sort of byproduct, like butterfly hand lotion or something that they were using for the butterflies, but no. Yeah,
No, mm-mm,
because
no.
it seems to me the customer base would be pretty limited.
Yeah, I think the biggest demand, of course, is to have this fabulous wedding in which 100 butterflies are released at the end.
Yeah,
So
that's a nice photo op, but
it totally is.
yeah,
Mhm.
not that common. It's not like you're going to have so many of those every day. I don't
Right,
know.
right. And I personally do not keep any butterflies. As soon as they eclose, which comes out of the chrysalis, I'll make sure that they're on their feet. They've had some nectar sources and they're strong, and then I release them. So I never keep any. As beautiful they are, and as much as I love them, they just go right back out into the wild to reproduce.
What's their lifespan?
It really depends. It depends on how there's generations. So within a season of monarchs, if you're in, let's say, the Midwest, you might have two, probably 3 or 4 generations of monarch. each one lives longer and longer because that last generation is the one that will migrate, whether they go to California or Mexico to migrate for overwintering. So that's the longest generation.
And what is the time span?
I would think of the longest generation might be, 4 or 5 months, but it's weeks in the beginning.
Oh, okay. Wow. So your book is called The Adventures of Johnny Butterfly Seed. This is kind of a children's book, or it is a children's book?
It is a children's book.
Okay. And the basic message of the book to kids is?
The basic message, actually, I should say, the basic goal of the book is really to inspire and educate kids about the plight of the monarch. And it is approached from a standpoint of you don't have to solve, world hunger to be part of helping the monarchs. You can just do a little bit at a time. In fact, if you just plant milkweed, you're already helping. So the motto, when we sign a book, with an author's signature, I have Johnny Butterfly Seed also sign it with plant more milkweed, because that in itself makes a big difference, even though it's a very small thing. But the book itself is really, I'll tell you, I wrote it in the business world. I'm a change maker. And because I want change for the monarchs, I thought, why not reach out to the future decision makers, which are the kids today, inspire them, educate them, get them very passionate about the monarch butterfly so that by the time that they are older and they are those decision makers because they're adults, that they already want to help save the monarch. And hopefully by that time we've turned it around.
Well, let's hope so. I think that this is a good idea with the book. You got to start them young and get them interested in some kind of a project or cause. Yeah. All right. Well, Tarisa, we got to wind this down. We are out of time, unfortunately. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure. It is www.johnnybutterflyseed.com.
Okay, great. And there's links to the book and information on what you do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's educational blogs on this site. There's the book. There's other products. There's information all over the place. So
great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and enlightening me about butterflies. I think I have learned something today, so I appreciate it.